Hey everyone, welcome back to my kitchen. I'm Bethany, and today's recipe, I'm gonna show you how to make a sour cream coffee cake that's layered with fresh blueberries. This is such an amazing dessert. My family absolutely loves this, and Drew actually begs me to make this dessert. So let's get right into it. All right, so the first thing that we want to do is get our crumble ready. That's the sugar and butter topping that's going to go on top and in the center. So we're going to do half cup of coconut sugar. I'm using coconut sugar, but you can also use white sugar instead. I like to use this because it's an unrefined sugar. So it's a little bit healthier, but still sugar. You can also just use white sugar. So half a cup of that. Then 5 tablespoons of melted salted butter. We let this cool too, so it's not piping hot. Then 2/3 cup flour. Then 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. This adds just that perfect spice to the whole cake, but especially that sugary center and top. And now I'm just gonna use a fork to mix this all together. I like to use melted butter for the topping. Some recipes just use regular cold butter, but I think that the topping kind of comes out a little bit more like sawdusty. And this is just a really nice, crumbly, classic looking topping. This is also a very dreary day here as we head into the end of summer, and I'm really sad about that. So it's kind of the perfect baking day. It's like very dreary and rainy. So we're just gonna mix this up until it just turns into this nice little crumbled consistency. All right, and now we'll set this aside and get working on the cake. All right, so for the cake, we're going to whip together the butter and the sugar first. So I'm gonna do 2/3 cup coconut sugar. I'm again using that. You can use white sugar too. Easy substitute, 1-to-1. So 2/3 cup of sugar. Then half a cup of salted butter. And that's 8 tablespoons for a half a cup. And now we're just gonna whip this for about 2 minutes until it's light and fluffy. All right, that should be good. And I forgot to mention that the butter that I used is room temperature, so it's very soft, which is perfect for allowing it to become nice and fluffy with the sugar. Then next we'll add our eggs. I have 2 room temperature eggs here because we don't want the butter to solidify again. Then we'll do 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. So I'm actually cheating a little bit here. I ran out of vanilla extract. You would have thought I'm filming a recipe. I should have that in stock, but I forgot. So I'm using a little bit of vanilla paste that I have in my pantry. So we're gonna substitute a little bit of that in there. It's just actual vanilla beans, so there's no difference there. Now we'll mix this with the butter. Next, we're gonna add a half a cup of our sour cream, and this just makes the cake so moist. It's such a nice ingredient to add to a really good homemade coffee cake. And who doesn't love coffee cake? It's the best. All right, and now we're gonna just fold this into the sugar, the eggs, the butter. So to this, we're gonna add 1 1/3 cup of more all-purpose flour. And whenever you're doing baking with the flour, you don't wanna pack it into the cup. I'm just kind of lightly scooping it here and then just leveling it off with my finger at the top. Then 1 teaspoon of baking powder. and 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. This is gonna help the cake rise nicely. And then because we use salted butter throughout the recipe, that's what I buy salted butter because I use that in all my cooking recipes. And because of that, we're not gonna need to salt this a lot. So I'm just adding a little pinch of salt, but we've already had salted butter in the crumb topping and in the cake, so we really don't need much salt in this. Now we're just going to fold this together. We do not wanna overmix this. It's really important in baking. Then to loosen this up, we're gonna add 2 tablespoons of milk. All right, that looks perfect. Now we're gonna layer this in the pan so we can get it ready for the oven. Okay, so first things first, we're going to use an 8x8 square baking pan. Super important. I would highly recommend not going with a different size pan because it's gonna just totally change the baking time. You're gonna have to bake it more or less depending on the size. So just stick with an 8x8, then the baking time will be accurate. And then we're going to put parchment paper. We kind of cut one that would fit the pan so we can put it in the center like that. That way at the end, we'll be able to lift the cake easily out of the pan. You can put a whole sheet of parchment paper on here, but we're just gonna spray the edges with some cooking spray that are not covered with parchment paper. I'm gonna rub the oil into the sides of the pan that are exposed so it doesn't stick. Next, we're gonna add half of our batter into the pan, and there's really no need to become super accurate with this. You don't need to get a scale or anything. I just kind of eyeball size it. And then we're gonna spread it out on the bottom the best that we can. And yes, this is a little bit of an annoying process right here. It doesn't even seem like it's enough batter, but don't worry, it all comes together in the end. You just gotta spread it out the best that you can. And then in the oven, the cake kind of does its own thing and it'll start to spread and rise. But this is like the tricky part, is spreading it out. All right, then after the first half of the batter, we're gonna do half of our crumble that we did earlier. And some of it kind of solidified a little bit, so, which is actually good because then it makes it more crumbly. So I'm gonna just use my fork, get some of that broken up, and then put half of this over top. I'm gonna sprinkle this evenly over that first layer. This just creates the most perfect buttery, sugary taste when you get into that center part of the cake. Then I'm going to use my fork to kind of spread those around. Then we're gonna do 1.5 cups of fresh blueberries. These are so good right now too, and it's the end of summer, so that's typically when the blueberries are actually really good and they're on sale. So these are nice and big and sweet. Got them at Costco. So we're just gonna spread these out. All right, so we did the layer of blueberries. Now for this top batter, we're going to dollop it over top in different areas because that's gonna make spreading it out a lot easier. And we're just spreading the batter as smoothly as we can over top of the blueberries. It's okay if it's not perfect. Some of the blueberries are gonna kind of come up with the batter, and that's all right. They'll get covered with the other sugar crumb toppings, so we won't really see it. But we're just gonna do our best to get all the corners. It's not perfect, but it doesn't have to be. Again, that's just like the cook in me with baking is like, it is what it is. Drew, again, is a really good baker, my husband, and he is very precise in everything, and I am just not. So that's just the way it is with me. All right, we're gonna use the rest of our sugar and butter topping, but I'm just kind of breaking up the big chunks. Again, it kind of like solidifies with that butter. And then we will sprinkle the rest of this over top. Now we're gonna bake this in the oven at 350 degrees, and we're gonna bake this for about 35 to 40 minutes. Every oven is different, so that's why there's a little bit of a gap in between that time. And you just wanna test in the center of the cake with a toothpick towards the end. If you set it to 35, you can check in the center of it. If it's still wet when you pull it out, you wanna keep baking it, but it should be done between 35 to 40 minutes. All right, so we just took this out of the oven and it smells so good in here. It just smells like cinnamon and sugar and butter. So what we're gonna do is we've let this cool for just a few minutes before we lift it out of the pan. So we're gonna use our parchment paper, which is very handy in this case. We're just gonna carefully lift this out of the pan. All right. So I'm just laying this on my countertop because it's nice and cool. I do have a wire rack right here. You can use this if you want to sit your cake on that, let it cool a little bit more. So if it's still really hot, you want to just continue to let it cool and then we'll slice it. So Dad is gonna taste this today, and I'm having you here because you love this. Whenever I make this, you always love it. So it's the sour cream coffee cake with blueberries. And we have coffee here.
And I have blueberries every morning in my cereal. So I'm looking forward to tasting it. I like it, the fact that it has the cream in there.
Oh yeah, it has sour cream in it.
Sour cream.
Yep, makes it extra moist.
See if I can taste this without knocking it all over the place. It's delightful. Wash it down with a little coffee. Excellent.
Good, I'm glad to hear that.
Well, this is the crown to any fine dining that you have blessed us with so many times.
Yes, my family, whenever we have guests in town, I always try to serve typically this after the dinner, and everyone always loves it. So it's a nice finisher.
And I like the sour cream in it. It really makes it, just taste great.
Yeah.
And makes the blueberries zing, they got a nice flavor to them.
Yes, and we use coconut sugar in this. Would you say you've noticed that there's any type of different taste? Because we used to.
Well, I don't think it's that sweet.
Yeah, I don't load this with sugar. I do lower the sugar because there's sugar in the topping, in the filling, and then in the cake.
And us old people need to have less sugar, and it's actually good. But it's real sweet, and it's nice, it's tasty, and I like the crumbles on the top.
Good, I'm glad.
And I'm gonna go and finish it.
All right, good.
Thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome, thanks for coming, Dad. All right, Dad is off eating his coffee cake, so I'm gonna try it. So good. First thing you notice is the bright, sweet blueberries in it, and just that cinnamon sugar topping in the middle and on top. It's so good. And the cake is so moist from the sour cream in it. It is perfect. And there's no coffee in a coffee cake. This is just the perfect pair with a cup of coffee. I hope you guys get to try this recipe because it's so good. It's the first dessert I'm sharing here on YouTube. So I hope you guys enjoy it and get to try it. And if you do, feel free to leave a review on our website or comment on this video. Always love hearing from you guys. And also, you can support the channel by liking this video, subscribing to our channel, commenting, whatever you like to do. We appreciate it so much, truly. So thank you, and as always, we'll catch you in the next recipe.